Good morning, everyone. The music goes down. It's time to go. Welcome to Launch Fishers. My name is David Bowling. I'm the executive director here. Welcome to our first Learn at Launch of 2026. We decided as a team we're going to move these to the end of the month, and I can't believe that this is the last day of February. Everybody have everything they... Jeez, did I say February? I'm looking at Dan and I said January. Everybody have everything they need to accomplish in January? It's all done? You guys are ready to roll? Let's do it. I'm already, I don't know if am I behind or am I ahead? What am I here? I don't know where I am. It's as I talked to Dan earlier, he's like, hey, thanks for having us. He said maybe bottom of the bucket, but I think, we're starting off at the top here of the invite, the Learn at Launch series. This topic here in the title of this, from Napkin to Nasdaq, is an incredible run. It's properly named. I look back and think, when you guys were over at the IoT lab, and I was talking earlier, like there's probably 6 of you over there, max, in probably a 200 square foot room. You moved over here, and there may have been 10 of you, and then I think I went to lunch a couple times and came back a couple weeks later and doing things. I'm like, holy cow, there has to be like 40 of them back there. And so it's been a sprint for sure for these guys here in our building. And now they're out and on Nasdaq and doing extremely well. And I'm excited this morning to hear what is going on and what has happened, what has transpired over the last 12 months. So it's been like I said, I'm excited to hear this. I did tell Todd earlier that part of having them up here in this last day of January. Friday is usually a casual day, but now I'm having to wear a sport coat on Friday. I do want my green tie, so if I can have that, that will be nice. Okay. But anyway, I will stop and get you guys up here. So if we can have the ARAI team come on up. Glad to have you guys up here. I'm excited. Drew, if you can come on up, I'll have you announce the team, and we'll get right into this morning. This is going to be awesome, guys. So welcome. Thank you all for showing up on a cold morning. We're excited for everyone to be here. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. I want to see if I'm working. Give me more volume.
And how
can you hear me?
Here too?
I want to be able to talk over everybody. There we go. Keep everybody else low.
Sorry, Drew. Already happening. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name's Drew Blair, moderating the panel of wonderful ARAI professionals here for you, the leadership team. If I look familiar, I may not, and that's perfectly fine, but I was a news anchor for Wish TV for many years in town, and fast forward to Kylie Conway being one of the marketing communications professionals here at ARAI. We were partners on TV together. So I started hearing about this exciting new job that she has off of TV, and then I think I heard 4 days beating Amazon, which we'll get to in a second, and I was sold. So I am, in full transparency, a proud investor in ARAI myself.
Thank you.
So yeah, and have celebrated along the way. We had 8 months ago, we had that Nasdaq, so from Napkin to Nasdaq. So joining us here on stage, if you are not already familiar, we have Dan O'Toole, CEO, founder of ARAI, Nirav Shah, Chief Strategy Officer, and Todd Petmeyer, the CFO here at ARAI. So, good morning, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I
want to say Drew,
yes?
Yep. The short straw.
Oh, Drew.
Because Kylie was supposed to be here, and all of a sudden she conveniently remembered she was going to Vegas today.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Drew.
That's all right. She is in flight right now. But no, I mean, it makes perfect sense because I know your story. Proud of it, especially as a native Hoosier, seeing what has been accomplished here in Fishers has just been incredible. So we're going to start talking about it. I want to start with all 3 of you. We're going to play the one-word game. Give me one word to describe. It's going to be hard, Dan, I think, to keep you restricted. One word to describe your first day with ARAI, and they're all different first days, I understand. So let's go down the whole panel. Your first day with ARAI.
Who wants to start with that?
Nirav.
Skeptical.
Are you still at ARAI?
Nirav stole my line, but doubtful. So I'll just leave it at that.
Positive.
Okay. Let's have one word for Arrive AI today.
Go ahead, Todd.
Potential.
Promising.
Huge.
I love it. All right, so let's talk about the napkin days, from napkin to Nasdaq. It's actually a cornfield, just so you know. So Dan, take us through where this idea was generated. You saw a drone in a cornfield.
Yeah, actually, and I want to give credit to Greg Prine. He is a buddy of mine, and when I had this idea, he and I got together at a bar over in Keystone at the Crossing, and I had a napkin, and I was showing him that, and he coined the phrase from napkin to Nasdaq. So anytime I say that, I always say, Greg Prine, you get 12 cents. So there you go. So
Royalty.
yeah, it's a corny story, no pun intended. I was coming home from a business trip in Chicago. It was a long, 3-hour drive, and you just kind of daydream as you're driving. I was going down Highway 47 off 65, 2-lane rural street, cornfields on both sides, and I'm just kind of daydreaming. And out of the corner of my eye, something caught my attention. I looked over, and somebody was flying a drone in one of these cornfields. And this is about the time in 2014 when Jeff Bezos was saying, drone delivery. And so I thought, drone delivery, that's cool. But what's more important is, where is every delivery going to start and where is every delivery going to end? And to me, the notion of dropping things on the ground or having every delivery emanate, pick up from the ground, it was a non-starter, wasn't scalable. So then I started thinking, what if you reinvented, came up with Mailbox 2.0? And then what would you have in that? And I started thinking of all these ideas, and I was like overflowing. By the time I got back to my house, I was like, I was forgetting ideas quicker than I was remembering. And I was like, I got to run in. I ran past my wife, Stacy. Stacy, raise your hand. Wouldn't be here without you, good or bad. Just kidding. But anyway, I ran past her. Said, I got to go to my office. I got to debrief on all these things. So I went in and wrote all this down. And then I called our patent attorney, John Richardson, who's not here today. And I said, John, today's Friday. Monday, I'm going to come in with a whole abstract. I want to file this patent Monday for Mailbox 2.0. If you're late, you're not allowed in here, Bill. Bill Cooler, everybody. Anybody need an architect? Right there. Okay. So anyway, I called John. I said, hey, Monday I'm coming over. I want to get this thing filed. I don't want to do a patent search. I don't want to do a provisional. I want to file a full utility patent. And I'd been in a race a couple times that I didn't realize. One time I had an idea for a new remote control. It's called the previous channel button. Everybody know what that is? I had that idea, and I went to file it, and Sony had beaten me by 1 month on that idea. I like to bet on football games, so I would always want to go back and forth. In the old days, you didn't have the previous channel button, so they beat me on that. And then one time I had an idea for a medical device, and I went to file that, and General Motors had beaten me by 3 months. So when I had this idea, I knew I was in a race. I filed Monday, and it turned out when the patent issued, it had revealed that we beat Amazon by 4 days, Postal Service by 2 weeks. We beat a company called Valkyrie by 22 days. They tried to buy us out. They didn't see us coming. And just a lot, it's all coming full circle right now. So sorry to dominate the answer there, but that's how it all happened.
No, we got to hear that. So we are talking about the last inch of the last mile delivery. Arrive points today. So we'll transition from past to present quickly through this conversation, but there's so much of the backstory and the probably stumbles and fun times along the way, because this has just been such a fast-paced transition. Nirav, you met Dan because you guys were working in the same building.
So actually, I had a building, I had a business. I was building drones and military cable assemblies for the military on the west side of town. My building was getting sold, and I live in Broad Ripple. I wanted something sort of in the Castleton area. So came across Dan's building probably in 15 or so, and Dan was like, hey, got this building, blah, 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 2,000 square feet, whatever the specs were. And he said, what do you do? What's your business? I said, in the drone business. He goes, I'll be right there. Literally in 20 minutes, he ran over, and he goes, wow, you're in the drone space.
I drove.
Yeah, he drove.
Hey, Bill, sit next to Stacy. Go ahead. Keep talking.
So Dan comes in my office. He's like, I got this idea for a drone mailbox. You're in the drone space. Let's do something great. So my partner, I look at the video that Dan had created, and skeptical is the word. So that's my first memory.
That might be nice.
So in any case, I ended up taking space from Dan and was a tenant of his, and joined his board, and then eventually joined the company.
And there were some great stories along the way. Which,
Oh, I can imagine. Joining the company, you like to pride yourself as being the first ARAI AI.
Absolutely.
Right? You say skeptical, but I imagine crazy was in the mix too. And Stacy would probably use the word crazy at times. But Dan, you like the idea of being crazy, right?
who said that? Why would anybody think that? No. Hey, if you're not a little crazy, you know, I did come up with a mantra. If you have a futuristic idea and people don't think you're crazy, you're too late. And that my mom falls into that category, because the first day when I had this idea, I said, "Hey, Mom, I got to show you this idea." And she used to work with me like 3 days a week, and I went and she was like, "What drugs did you do last night?" You know, and if your mom is skeptical of Nirav and Todd, you know, I don't even know where I'm going. But anyway, you know, you got to prove them wrong, right? So we're having fun. We got a long way to go, but I think we're getting there, and we're moving very fast. It's exciting.
So I do want to hear about some of these funny moments along the way. Any things that really stand out in your minds? Funny, awkward, weird moments?
Yeah, I've got a couple about Nirav, basically. These are not really centered around Arrive as much as they are just speaking to his character. I'm kidding. One day I was in my office. I know this is awkward holding this closely, but I don't think you're going to hear me if I don't. One day I was in my office when we were cohabitating in different buildings on the same campus, and Nirav called me up because, "Hey, what are you doing today at 2:30? I go, what's going on? He goes, the FBI called and they want to meet with me. I go, well, I'm going to be doing anything but being with you at 2:30. So 2:30 rolls around. Of course, I went over there, and it's funny. A couple of FBI agents. He was in the drone business, and somebody had just landed a drone on the White House. The yard of the White House, and so all of a sudden the FBI is all over the world checking out drone manufacturers and all this. So I'll take it from there.
So they asked me if I had. So Dan's in the building with me, just to kind of vouch for my character and whatever he's my.
But wait, they were surveilling me too, right?
That's right. So Dan had actually recognized them. They'd come to see a car of his, I guess. Him and So they were kind of scoping us out.
They didn't have any idea that Nero would call me to the scene of the crime, right?
No idea. So they said, had you left the country in the last 30 days, 60 days? And I had been on a cruise to Istanbul with my family. So I kind of,
Terror Central, right?
So that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, they ended up vetting you, and I think you got off with on a small technicality, right? Never convicted. So that was one. And here's another one. When he signed the lease, I included the utilities, and I had some provisions in there, like the building can't be above 50 degrees in the during, that's the highest I want it, because I was paying the utilities. So one day I walk in the building, and it's a high ceiling building. It's like 80 degrees in there, and I had gotten a $20,000 electric bill that month. I'm like, Nirav, what the heck are you doing in here? It's 80 in here. He goes, well, I've got all these older people working. What am I going to do? I said, I got an idea. I redid the lease. I gave him a $600 a month credit because that was the budget that I had in there. Took that down, gave him his lease back. He re-signed it. Next month I come in there, there's no lights on. I could see my breath. I go, Nirav, what the heck? He goes, I'm paying the bill. What do you expect? I'm like, so I learned never to include utilities. That's a lesson to everybody out here. So back to you, Drew.
Well, so is the utility bill ultimately what convinced you to join Arrive AI?
Absolutely.
Sincerely, though, what was it that did convince you? What was it about Arrive AI that attracted and wanted you to fully dive in?
Coming from the drone space, I didn't necessarily see delivery, but a lot of it was Dan's conviction, his energy, his single-mindedness. I think that was a real inspiration for me. It was focus, 7 o'clock at night on a Friday, 6 a.m. on a Monday. It didn't matter. Dan was on it. And frankly, it's that.
You hear that echoed across the investor pool. There's so much about, Dan, your style as CEO and investing so much personally into Arrive AI yourself, but the phone calls that you take privately from investors. You put your phone number out there.
Yeah.
When we had the celebration to go public 8 months ago, that was echoed time and time again when we heard from investors on the Zoom call, right?
Yeah.
That they really valued that is your style as CEO. So it's resonating, it's getting out there. Why is that important to you to be so transparent?
Yeah, thank you. I'm really proud of that. And I was just telling the story on the way in. I mean, our stock is not where we want it to be. Admittedly, it's far from it. And I have always given my number out, and a lot of people have questioned that. But every day I go to the office, there's three things I want to be. I want to be the boss I want to work for. I want this to be the company that I want to work at, and I want this to be the company that I would want to invest in. And I think there's so much fraud out there, and people taking advantage of people. Everybody loves you while you're giving them a check, and when that ends, so does that, and that's not who we are. And the only way I could be true to that is to do things like give my number out, be there before, during, and after your investment, and really confront the bad more than the good. You have to own everything, and I don't want to be cast in the shadow of, Bernie Madoff, Sam Bankman-Fried, Enron, any of these things. When you're investing, the default is always skepticism, right? And how do you overcome that? You be genuine. On the way in today, I was just commenting that our share price is beaten down. I'm the first one to admit it. And the funny thing is, I've had the same phone number for 35 years. I've given it to 5,000 investors. I put it out to the world, and people are very judicious about how they use it. It's a silver bullet. They don't call me just to rap with me, or nobody's called and cussed me out or anything. And they're all thoughtful. It's a we story, we the people story. But when they call me, they're like, hey, how can we do this? And that means so much to me, and I just celebrate that every day. And that is the most important thing about this. I could have sold this company 100 times and been, worth millions, and that would have been great. But this is bigger than that, and we're going to go out and prove it. And if you're in here with us, we're with you. We're not going to let anybody down. And at the end of the day, we're all going to be high-fiving and celebrating, and that's my mission, right, Stacy? I know I drive you crazy.
One of those selling opportunities would have been beating Amazon by 4 days with a patent. What did that moment feel like for you? After you've already recalled missed opportunities,
Sure.
but in a short time frame, this time you won.
Yeah, it took 3 years for the patent to issue. So I really believe this is the biggest market opportunity in the world. The TAM in the U.S. is 170 million addresses. That grows by 4,000 new addresses every day. It's a huge market. And when I came up with this idea, I ran to the patent office, as you guys heard, and it took 3 years for that patent to issue. So every day I would wake up and it would oscillate. I was giddy. I'm like, I'm going to get this patent. I'm going to have the biggest patent in the world. And then another day I'd wake up and I'd say, there's no way I beat Amazon or Walmart or Google. There's just no way. These guys, they're ahead and all that. And it was like this for 3 years. I was reluctant to jump in with both feet and spend a ton of money, maybe throwing good money after bad, right? Because ultimately the patent may not issue, and it would have changed my life, right? So John Richardson called me one day and he goes, hey, are you sitting down? I go, yeah. He goes, well, I got some bad news for you. I go, what is it? He goes, you're gonna have to write a check because your patent just issued. I'm like, oh my God. So that was huge. He got me on that one. And then the patent issued, and when it issued, what it did, it revealed that we had beaten Amazon by 4 days, because there's a way you can expedite. You can pay an extra fee to expedite your patent, and they did that. Of course, I'm a small guy. I didn't do that. So they actually were in first position. It was back to first to file, which was us. So when we got our award, it negated their patent. So it was a huge day, and that's given us the impetus to move forward. It's changed all our lives. None of us would be here right now in this room, actually, if we didn't win that patent. So I appreciate everybody being here. And Dave, I want to thank you for being a great supporter. We started here over at IoT and moved here, and for inviting us here today. Thank you, man.
I'm a hobbyist athlete, so I think I'd really like to know what your heart rate was like in that moment, like if you have the metrics. What did you do to celebrate?
It was, I don't even know, Stacy. It's a fog, right? There's so much going on every day. I can't even remember what I had for dinner last night at this point.
Stacy, do you remember a specific celebration? Was there champagne involved or anything?
We do things differently. It was probably a drive in a car and a dinner and just excited, and I'm sure
Or a casino.
There we go. And started handing out the phone number, right? So as David pointed out in the introduction, very few employees in those early days. So what challenges did you guys face? We're trying to find suppliers and getting prototypes manufactured. What were those days like? Paint that picture for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not I'm not a degreed engineer. I'm not a technician. I'm not very good with fixing things. But I was the chief engineer. I was the chief, organizing things. Dan's giving the presentation. I'm hoping it works. Fingers crossed. Praying that this thing opens. So there's a lot of that kind of thing, scrambling, figuring things out. But we did it. Right? We pushed and we made it happen.
We outsourced a lot. We didn't have the are you losing me there? Are you trying to give me a signal to cut it up? Hold it further down.
With your hand, so it's
Oh,
not
okay.
right.
All
There you
right.
go.
All right. Can you still hear me? I don't feel like I have. This is the power. I don't feel like that. Okay. Okay. So, we outsourced a lot of stuff. We raised capital, really proud of how we did that. Before we went public, we ended up having 5,000 shareholders on our cap table. We had 3 successive crowdfunding rounds. We earned the designation of being the highest valuation pre-revenue company to ever raise capital on crowdfunding in the history of crowdfunding. So we had these huge things that were in our favor. But at the end of the day, they were a pre-revenue company for 11 years. To be able to do that is exceptional. Every dollar that came in was linear to development. We treated every dollar like it was our last dollar, right, Nero, Todd? And just to get where we are today, to have this huge opportunity to be able to fund it and have some good run rate ahead of us is exceptional. It's a textbook case that I think will be discussed in a lot of business classes. We went around a kind of a different path to get here it's never been done before, frankly. And we have a lot of respect from Wall Street, and I'm really proud of that. And all the opportunities that come across our path every day, it's so much fun. One thing I say is I would be a hypocrite if I complained about one aspect of what I do because I love it so much, and it wouldn't be cool to diss any part of it. You got to take it all, the bad, the good, the ugly, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. This is our moment. We are building something big. I see a lot of shareholders out here. I just want everybody to know how much I value that, and I don't take that for granted. You guys are all right here with me, and we're going to be there at the end in a big way. So thank you.
Awesome. And Todd, time to bring you into the conversation because your early days are different from their early days. You joined ARAI, quickly thrust into the realities of navigating a company going public. Describe your early memories, if you can. I'm sure there were sleepless nights.
So we joke about this sometimes that, we call it fate or whatever it may be, but in May of 23, I was doing some fractional work, but it was time to get back, full time. And so I started looking around the area mainly because of family roots. And at the same time, the company was in the midst of a deal to go public with a SPAC, what they call a SPAC. And kind of at the 11th hour of that deal, the other party said, you really need a CFO if you are serious about this, or something to that effect. If you want this deal to happen, get a CFO. So timing brought us together.
And Todd, sorry, it was just really funny. It was like literally Sunday by midnight. We needed the CFO, and I think that you and Dan met on Saturday or something.
I think I first talked to you guys on like Friday and Saturday.
I said, "Are you a CFO?" And you said, "Yeah." I go, "Okay, come on."
Yeah, I had a heartbeat. and I had CFO next to my name. So
That's not true. The funny thing is, we were actually we were using Korn Ferry and Rose Ryan, our 2 big recruiting firms for CFOs. We had a search going throughout the country, and the real irony of it was we had a candidate in Oregon, California, Illinois, Tennessee, and then Todd pops up and he's in Fishers, Indiana, and I had met with every one of them, and I'm not BSing as far as Todd knows. I couldn't believe my choice. The guy was great. He fits. I had a checklist of things. I wanted somebody entrepreneurial as an accountant or a CPA. That's really hard to find. Somebody that was creative, that could articulate an earnings report to analysts and investors, and if there's any CPAs or accountants, no offense, but somebody that wasn't as dry as you might think. And Todd checked every
Most
box.
of the boxes,
And I even told him that yesterday. I go, man, I'm so glad we found you. It's just amazing, though. This whole journey has been really had a bunch of things like that happen that have been really fortuitous. I always say this is all the right people at the right place at the right time, doing the right thing, and there's a much bigger thing at work here than I can orchestrate. So, and you look back and you can see the touch points of things happen you don't really know why, and then you look back and you say, wow, that's why that happened. So just really proud of that, and that gives me faith every day that we're on the right path here.
Yeah, and the end of that story is by Sunday night, the deal fell through, the SPAC deal.
But we're still left with you.
But they were stuck with me at that point. So, so I came in on the tail end of the failed SPAC. We worked for several months to find another path to go public. Our bankers at the time brought us a reverse merger opportunity with a currently listed Nasdaq company, or at the time currently listed Nasdaq company. And so we were going to do a triangular merger and essentially take their listing on the Nasdaq to go public with certain funding that came along with it. So that was great. We worked hard, got really close on that. And then in the spring of 24, the other company got delisted from the Nasdaq, which effectively killed the deal. I think looking back, we're all grateful at the deals that didn't happen, because there were a lot of paths we could have followed to go public. And I think at the end of the day, we did it the way we were supposed to do it. We controlled our own destiny, did what's called a direct listing, changed bankers, and that's how we got there. But there were a couple of false starts along the way.
And you really helped the company navigate the regulatory climate, the investor relations, so much, to get so close several times and to back and then start again. What was done to encourage and maintain investor confidence, that you guys were out front and communicating every time to your transparency motive,
Yeah, transparency and communication, those are our core values. We always want to be, one of the promises of investing in ARAI is hearing everything first here. I don't care if it's the worst thing in the world. I don't want anybody else telling that to you. I want to be the one. And what I found, frankly, is that's what people want too. People are a lot more forgiving than you give them credit for. You think you're coming out with something bad, and you're trying to cover yourself or whatever, but the reality is, just be honest. I remember one time we had notice of a lawsuit that was forthcoming, and I saw the lawsuit, but the company never filed it. It was about a picture that we had hired a third-party marketing firm to come up with what we call a hero shot of our product, which didn't exist at that time. So this firm came up with this picture. Unbeknownst to us, they had taken it from our competitor and kind of photoshopped it and put it out there. We didn't know that. So this company filed this lawsuit against us, but they didn't file it. They served it on us. And I wanted to get out and tell everybody immediately. So I had John Richardson, our patent attorney, our legal counsel. I said, John, call him up and tell him to file that lawsuit, because I want to get it out there. And so then they did that, and they filed it, and then we put it out immediately. And I remember it was we had the most comments on that post of any post we've ever put out, even to date. And every single one of them was positive. And it just reaffirmed in me that, people just want to know the truth. They don't want you covering it up. Any CEO, any CFO, CSO can go out and say the vanity things, hey, this is great or whatever. But when the rubber meets the road and it's time to say the hard stuff, that's where you earn your money or your keep or whatever. And so that's what we do here. So I think that was a great story. I love that story, and I remember that a lot, because sometimes there are tough things to say, but we're not here to filter things. We're here to report the truth every time and just own it.
Well, let's stick with positivity, and one of the most positive milestone moments is trading day. Todd, take us through that day. What was it like for you? What stands out the most?
So I remember we were supposed to start trading about 10:30. Does that sound right? So you literally get
10:27 and 13 seconds.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because it's a very long process and almost designed to grind you to a halt and make you give up. And so we found out on a Wednesday that we would start trading on a Friday or something like that. It was about 2 days before they let us know that our registration was effective, and oh, by the way, you'll be trading in 2 days. I think I was the only one of us in the office. I'm looking for Dan, trying to tell Dan, and I don't think you were in there. I think it was just me. Anyway, so by Friday morning, I'm getting up in the morning, and I kind of know we're not going to start trading till 10:30, but I start checking the pre-market quotes and all that. And of course, there's nothing there. And then as we get closer to go time, the bids start showing up. You can see the bids and the asks on the trades before we even started, and I noticed a bid at like $40 or something, and
Sam.
yeah, he happened to. Yeah, he's
Anybody thinks they overpaid for our stock, talk to Sam. Just kidding.
But in any event, we were all in here. I think when it started trading, I was sitting like right there with my screen up, and it finally opened. And I saw that $40 trade go through. And Sam, by the way, in all fairness, you're not the only guy who bought at $40. You may have been the first. But I don't know, there were like 9,000 shares or something that traded at 40. And then we hung in there pretty good. We ended up closing the first day above our reference price. So we went out at $13 a share. And for the first day, we closed above that, which is an accomplishment. By
We were valued at $1.4 billion at a $40 share price. So that was a unicorn, right? $1 billion company. So now we know we can get back there, right, Todd?
That's right. Sam, can you buy more?
Hey, and this room is really special, Dave, because this is where we hosted our trading party. We went public. We were all in this room. We had this big screen going. People were calling in from all over. Drew, you were there, from all over the world, frankly, and they were talking with. It was just a great moment. So something we'll never forget. And this place, maybe someday, this will be the Arrive AI room, sponsored by Dave Bowling.
It was such an atmosphere of community. It really was, from people who were calling in around the world, and you would have conversations quickly, just interviewing investors. What about this company attracted you? And again, many were saying it was you, Dan, and your style.
I told him to say that.
I know, yeah, we all got a little kickback, right? So, all right, what about the bell ringing ceremony? Todd, we'll start with you. What did that mean to you personally, professionally? I want to go down the whole panel on this one.
Yeah, it was maybe a once-in-a-lifetime experience for many of us. It's hard to say whether the bell ringing or that first day of trading are more memorable, because they're both in a different way. But, being there at the Nasdaq market site, which is pretty impressive, it's almost surreal. I think a lot of us would describe it that way. You see it on TV all the time, and then you get in there, and the room's smaller than you think, than you would imagine. And yeah, it was almost hard to believe.
Yeah, thanks, Todd. Same, very much the same sentiment. So I can remember picking stocks in 8th or 9th grade at Park Tudor, some business class. And to be there all those years later, ringing the bell, was just mind-blowing. Thank you.
No, thank you. No, it was amazing. Every cliched word you could think of, don't even give it justice. I mean, number one, it was a hell of a journey to get there. The things you've just heard here just are a fraction of what we went through. We're very loyal, Midwest values, right? So when we started out, we were working with an investment banker called Chardon. That was our first banker. And we were with them for over 2 years trying to get a deal. And, why did we want to go public? I guess that's a question too, right? For me, the promise of any investment is bringing your investors to liquidity. If you invested in Tesla and it was worth $1 and it went to be worth $1 billion, and you could never get to liquidity, it's really not worth the paper it's written on. So for me, that was really important to be able to have our investors monetize. And then when we did go public, there was a big drumbeat to lock everybody up. My C team, myself, everybody in the company, every investor that came in, and I would not do it. I said, we're not going to hold hostage every early investor that took the biggest risk on this company and watch them stand by in the event we trade at $40 a share when we come out. I want those guys to be able to monetize that if they want. I hope you'll stay, but if you don't, I'll shake your hand and thank you for being here. And so we won that battle. It was really touch and go to the point where I said, we're just not going to go public if you're not going to do that. So they relented. These investment bankers, they don't want to do that. But the great thing about it really is when there's a company that has a lockup as they go public, the focal point becomes that 6 month or a year period where that lockup expires. Now all of a sudden that is a drag on your share price. The fact that we went over the cliff on day one before anybody ever knew we weren't locked up really served us well, I think. And everybody had liquidity, and that was a great deal. But anyway, when we went public, we have this huge shareholder community. It's as we went through our journey to go public, when we first started out, we did the crowdfunding route. We had the retail investors, and we were frowned upon by Wall Street. You've got the retail investors, all
Dumb money.
the dumb money. That's what they called it. And so we always conducted ourselves as a public company. We had what's called a PCAOB audit performed regularly, which is a public company accounting board audit. So we did those from day one, which is very important. If you decided you were going to go public today and you didn't have 2 years of those, you set yourselves back 2 years. So we did that from day one. That was an SOP. We had board oversight. We ran this company like a public company from day one. If anybody's ever thinking about go public, how you start has a lot to do with how you end, and that would be great advice that I would give anybody. Always think about your idea in a big way. If you start out with a $9 million valuation, you're probably not going to get to where you need to be. We started out with a $58 million valuation. We went public at a $377 million valuation, and there's just so many things that we did, that some by accident, frankly, and that goes to the journey that I spoke about earlier. God kind of helping to orchestrate. But anyway, I know I'm skipping around. I'm just giving you some highlights. So Chardon was our first investment banker. We worked with him for a couple years. Couldn't get to where we wanted to be. So we found another company called Maxim. They're an investment banker out of New York, and they said, we can get you there. We love this story. We went 3 or 4 years trying to go public and being laughed at. We didn't go the VC route, the PE. We didn't do all those things. We went through crowdfunding and raised our money that way. And then to get to the end of the road, you'd had the Wall Street bets, the meme stocks, GameStop, all these things that happened, celebrating the retail investor. So we walk in the door, they're like, you got 5,000 investors, you did all these things, we love you guys, and Nirav and I are looking at each other like, what the hell, all of a sudden we're the heroes out there. So Chardon couldn't get us public, just couldn't get it done. We stayed with them probably longer than we should have, found Maxim, switched over. When we went to Maxim, we said, hey, we don't want to just drop Chardon. We love those guys. They did a hell of a lot of work, and we want them insinuated in this deal. And these investment bankers, if you know anything, these guys are at odds all the time. They really hate each other. And for us to get a carve out of 25% for Chardon, and Chardon didn't even know we were negotiating this on their behalf. So we thought we were going to be great guys. I always like to look people in the eye. I went and met them in person, shook their hand, told them what I was doing. And I said, hey, and by the way, we got you 25%, and they pretty much said F you. They threw away millions of dollars, right? Literally millions of dollars, but that's fine. I feel like we did the right thing on our behalf, and they didn't take it. So anyway, when we went public on the Nasdaq, we've got this big 5,000 shareholder community, and we wanted to break Nasdaq. We wanted to set a Guinness Book of World Records by having the most bell-ringing participants ever. So it's kind of, there's a lot of time. We did reach out to the Guinness Book of World Records about coming out and doing that, but they don't move like that. It takes some time. So at the end of the day, we ended up having 400 people come out to New York to ring the bell with us. So many investors, team members. It was amazing. I think it was one of the largest bell ringing ceremonies in the history of Nasdaq. We broke Nasdaq. We actually had to rent extra space. We had 400 people. I think we had 401. Somebody would have been standing outside. It would have been me probably. But it worked out perfectly. We're going to ring the bell again July 13th of this year. We're going to do a closing bell. We have an RSVP that will be going out in February. Anybody that wants to go, be on the lookout for that. Sign up. It's going to be restricted to 400 people because we know that's the number, but we'd love to have you out there.
So I do want to leave time for a Q&A, so if you want to be thinking about your questions out in the audience. But to go from fundraising to execution, and now things are really moving fast. Just in the last couple of months, you've hired 40 plus employees, starting from 6, having a lot of contractors, to 10 was it at Lunch Fishers, right. And now beyond. So what can you share about product development, partnerships, and scaling ARAI AI to the next phase?
Yeah, I'll start and then I'll let each of you guys jump in. Yeah, when we had this vision in 2014, the idea of, adding another step into autonomous delivery, and that being delivery to an arrive point versus to the ground. The industry wanted to drop things on the ground, land on the ground, all that. They didn't want to engineer any extra steps in. But fast forward to today, the industry, the market is speaking. No wholesale autonomous delivery can happen at scale without a safe, secure access point in that ecosystem, and that is us. All of our IP, intellectual property, is centered around that. If you have a dumb locker or mailbox, and then you add the element of autonomous delivery or pickup, that's us. We own all that IP, and that's where the market is going. We believe that we're in a winner-take-all market. We're unlocking the last 50% of all the value to be gained through autonomous delivery by having this new paradigm of what we call asynchronous delivery. If you're at Purdue University right now, you see these little Starship robots running around with a Starbucks order on it. Two things have to happen. You have to be there to meet the robot, and the robot has to be there to meet you. What if you can unlock the cadence of each delivery system by allowing it to happen on its own pace, so the Starship can show up, drop to an arrive point, you come up at some other point, or a robot or whatever it is, and everything's moving in its own motion. That is how you unlock the value. When everybody started out, they had their own end-to-end solutions they were thinking about very myopically. Nobody was thinking about the macro. The fact that we're in what I call the Amazon economy. People are ordering all their commerce from different vendors, and they're all showing up. And you need to be aware of all the different things that are coming, not just one. So we're leveraging AI to optimize scheduling, predict capacities, urgent deliveries, heated and cooled, chain of custody, all these things. We're moving in the healthcare space. We're looking to do a big deal here with Dave in Visionary Park here right now, hopefully yet to be announced. But got a lot of things going on. We're talking to some of the biggest companies in the world every single day. And every day we're getting closer to something huge happening. So, Nirav, what do you have to say?
Yeah, thanks, Dan. Just a quick story. We met with a guy yesterday who's at one of the top billion-dollar delivery companies in the last mile space. And so we met with him yesterday. It was a great meeting. And we had actually met with him 3 or 4 years ago. And 3 or 4 years ago, he said, I get your idea, but I don't know. Yesterday, he was super enthusiastic. He said, our leadership team knows about you. And that was such a big change when we were knocking on the doors 5 years ago saying, here's our idea. People are like, whatever. To hear this billion-dollar company say, you guys are on, we want to work with you, we're looking for this solution, was such a great feeling. So,
you mentioned the growth. We've hired 40 plus people since July. But I will say this, we do still run the company as if we're 6 people crowdfunding. I remember watching the bank account daily or hourly at some points when it got really tight. Going public and the financing got delayed, and we were never supposed to have runway to last until May. Somehow we made it last. But, that discipline and that thoughtfulness around spending is still how we run it today. $40 million equity line when we went public, but I remember Dan and I talking at the time, it's like 40 million is not as big as you think it is. When you talk about scaling, 10x and more in terms of the workforce and the R&D expense. So because we know it's finite, for the moment, we're treating every dollar like it's our last, and we encourage every employee, and we require every employee to treat it like it's his last. So
Todd and I have kind of become the heavies, right? It's no fun a lot of times because we're putting the brakes on a lot of times, and we don't want to be doing that. We want to be the ones, but everybody steals our thunder. They're the ones that are saying, oh, go do this or that. And then Todd and I kind of have to be the adults in the room near off.
Well, we just got heat a couple days ago. Just saying.
It's
Back
on a
to
case.
those utility bills.
Yeah, I also want to, I see a lot of our employees here. I just want to tell every employee, thank you for choosing Arrive AI. We're so proud of our team. We have a world-class team, and that's something else that we didn't really touch on. But when we went out as a high-tech company here in Indiana, that's kind of that's a unicorn in its own way. That doesn't really happen. You look at the coast. There's a lot of people that work on the coast that want to live in the Midwest. And then in addition to that, there's a lot of talent right here that really doesn't know where to work because there aren't these kind of opportunities. So over 50% of our hiring that we just recently went through, we found people right here in Indiana. We're really proud of that. We think it's a hidden treasure that we want to keep a secret until we're done hiring. And I think we're going to have maybe up to 200 people in the next year and a half or so. And we chose Fishers because Dave and the team really opened this market up to us. It's a high-tech area. And they're really advanced thinking in how they approach things and all the amenities in the area. So when we decided where we're going to put our corporate headquarters, we were lucky to find a great building right over between Portillo's and IKEA. It's a world-class building that serves very well as a corporate headquarters for a Nasdaq company. And we were just in the right place at the right time to get that building as well. So everything keeps falling in place. Let's hope we keep moving in the right way here. And I couldn't be happier about where we are in the evolution of the company. If you could factor out looking at the share price and you walked into this company, you would say, wow, this is the next Google. And that's really, I'd rather have that be the case than the opposite, because you can't support a great share price without having the execution and everything that we have. It's amazing. So proud of it. I thank everybody for every contribution you've made to helping us be where we are today.
So we are on the clock. I want to use these last few minutes. If there are any questions out in the crowd, and Dave, maybe we can hand a microphone over to them. But anybody have a question for the panel? Got one up front.
Yeah, maybe Todd, if you could
Here comes the mic.
Excuse me.
Introduce yourself too.
Thank you. Is this on?
There we go.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Bill Cooler, one of the initial investors and longtime friend of Dan and Stacy's. As a shareholder, obviously, we're concerned about revenues and things like that. I love to see the growth of the team and the diversification of product type and understand, I'm a true believer in the entire system that you're creating here. Can you share anything regarding revenue projections for the next year or two? And, obviously, one of the first things I think of is the secure mailbox and opportunities in India that were announced months ago about flying beyond the line of sight for drones and deliveries. And is there any type of product, anything that's going out in the market, anything that we can expect for revenues to start coming in beyond Hancock Regional Health?
So thanks for the question, Bill. One of the downsides of being a publicly traded company is we can't give selective information, particularly forward-looking information. Wish we could. We have a lot to say. But to kind of address that a little bit, we've been sharing publicly, and it's actually on our website, we've been sharing it with banks and investors, what we call our 5-year strategic plan. And anybody can go take a look at that. But it shows really exponential growth projected, obviously, in arrive points. So 1,000 to 10,000. the strategic plan goes out to 100,000 units by year 5, and that's kind of our public-facing communication on that, and that's about as much as we're allowed to say by the regulations. So.
We can talk about 100,000 units in 5 years, 50% of our revenues through AI insights, the other 50% through recurring revenue through our subscription model. And then we're looking to 20x our share price in that 5-year period too. So those are things that we've publicly stated. That's kind of the North Star that we're milestoning toward. And to Todd's point, we're not trying to be evasive or coy by not sharing something. We cannot. There's so many rules that we're finding out. I'll give you a quick kind of a horror story for Nirav and me. We believe the share price is as low as it's going to be, knock on wood. That's our belief. I'm not stating that. But we wanted to show support and faith. We recently went out and bought shares in the company ourselves because we believe so much. And little did we know that we violated this short swing trade act because we had sold shares back in June. And you can't do anything for 6 months. So like 5 months and 30 days or whatever it was.
It's from 1935.
Yeah, it's a 1933 securities. We bought more shares and we created a penalty for ourselves. And I had to pay 6 figures, and Nirav had to pay a substantial amount as well. And we were innocently trying to support our stock. So when Todd mentions, forward-looking, we're not kidding around anymore. So we don't want to get. I don't want to get another fine to you, Nirav. So sorry, Sonali. Sorry about that. Sonali is Nirav's wife, and she, I think, had to pay that out of her. Thanks, Sonali.
Got one more question.
Take your time. We can, Dave, if it's okay with you, we can go a few extra minutes, right, or not? Okay. He shut me down. Go ahead.
I'll just ask it out loud, I guess. So Nicholas Barter, Bay Labs, and one of the questions I had was you've grown by 40 or so employees recently. What are the kind of roles that you've been hiring? How's that going to bolster the company? And what is it that you see are the next bit of roles that maybe are growth roles for you that'll really help?
I'll jump in and I'm going to let Todd take that. One of the things we did as a public company, we want to do things the right way. We hired a benchmarking company to come in and consult on what the role should be, what the pay should be, and we wanted to be above market. As a tech company here in a great location of Fishers, we wanted to have high-paying jobs. We wanted to have company morale. We wanted to have retention with our employees. Every employee is a shareholder in the company as well. We want to create an incentivization where everybody's working toward the same goal. So that's kind of the macro of how we looked at it. Todd can speak more granularly about the roles.
Yeah, I would say, 90% of the roles we've added have been technical roles, product managers, engineers, mechanical engineers, AI engineers, robotic engineers. All the high-tech hot spaces you read about and hear about, which is what makes it remarkable that we were able to find so many of those people actually here in Indiana. Speaks highly to places like Purdue, even though it hurts me to say that. But there are some great universities and places around here with talent like that. So those are the kind of roles, project managers, even data scientists. Those are the highlights, and a great HR director, Tom Hunley. So.
We're an AI first company, and we want to develop our own secret sauce. We're not trying to white label somebody else's. So we've done the hiring to accomplish that. In addition, we recently announced a partnership with NVIDIA, and we've got actually NVIDIA workstations coming online. We're going to have some of the highest computing power in the whole state very soon, right here in Fishers, Indiana. We're really proud of that, and we're trying to figure out how we can leverage that in a big way. So we're doing the real work here, and I'm really proud of that.
Okay, one last question.
Just real quick, kind of on the deliverable side. I mean, you just mentioned AI as kind of the forefront of what you guys are doing, but obviously the delivery device, the mailbox itself, is kind of number 2, I would imagine. Are there any hurdles or any restrictions you guys are seeing legally before you can start rolling those out into the industry, into the customer base, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're right. The mailbox is kind of the physical center of our business. So we're multimodal, as you know, Dan had mentioned earlier. Drones, ground robots, people. So from the ground robot space, there's not a ton of regs out there. But if you look at drones, the FAA is still kind of throttling back the unleashing of the skies. But they've announced, I think, Sean Duffy, the commissioner of the Transportation Administration, said we want to unleash America's drone dominance. And Indiana just got named as a 8th or 9th test site in the United States. So all that's for the good for us. So we're seeing regulations improve in Part 108's coming out hopefully this year, and that'll allow for deliveries in beyond visual line of sight, which would really help our growth. Yeah. The other thing that we're looking at from a regulatory perspective is we've been working with USPS for a number of years now to allow us to have the mail slot, the U.S. mail slot, which needs to be segregated from the rest. So we're getting that designation to have U.S. mail allowed, and that'll allow us to go into easements and to have installations right in front of your house and the curb, and that, the protection of the U.S. mail. So that's going to be a big one. We're hoping that announcement comes out in the next short period. Not trying to share too much. Sorry.
Says time's up.
That's right. From Napkin to Nasdaq, this is ARAI AI.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.